From an early age, many of us are taught that honesty is the foundation of good character. Parents, teachers, and mentors encourage us to always tell the truth because honesty builds trust, strengthens relationships, and allows us to live with integrity. These lessons are valuable, but they often leave out an equally important truth about human nature. Honesty without wisdom can unintentionally become a source of vulnerability. The problem is not honesty itself. The problem is assuming that everyone values truth with the same sincerity that you do. Human beings are driven by different motives. Some appreciate openness, while others quietly collect information that can later be used to judge, compete with, or undermine those who reveal too much. Psychology teaches that information is a form of power. Every detail you reveal about your fears, insecurities, ambitions, frustrations, or weaknesses gives another person insight into your emotional landscape. In healthy relationships, that information creates empathy and deeper connection. In unhealthy relationships, it can become a tool for manipulation or unfair advantage. This does not mean people are inherently bad. Rather, it reflects the complexity of human nature. People often respond according to their own interests, emotional maturity, and personal values. Some are capable of protecting your confidence, while others may use it to elevate themselves, consciously or unconsciously. Consider the professional world. Imagine someone who openly shares every doubt about their abilities, every frustration with colleagues, or every uncertainty about future goals. Their honesty may be genuine, but not every listener interprets it as authenticity. Some may mistake humility for incompetence or uncertainty for weakness. Perception often shapes opportunity as much as reality does. The lesson is not to become dishonest, but to recognize that complete transparency is not always the wisest strategy. Emotional intelligence means understanding that every environment has its own dynamics, and wisdom lies in adapting without compromising your principles. History repeatedly reminds us that the most respected leaders were not simply truthful. They were discerning. They understood the difference between secrecy born from fear and privacy rooted in wisdom. They spoke honestly when it served justice, built trust, or inspired others, but they did not feel compelled to reveal every thought, plan, or emotion. They recognized that maturity includes knowing what belongs in the public eye and what should remain protected until the right moment. This balance allowed them to remain authentic while safeguarding their purpose. There is also an important distinction between honesty and emotional impulsiveness. Sometimes people say, "I'm just being honest," when in reality they are expressing every passing emotion without reflection. Genuine honesty is thoughtful, responsible, and guided by self-awareness. It asks not only whether something is true, but also whether sharing it is helpful, necessary, and appropriate. Speaking every thought the moment it appears is not always courage. Sometimes true courage is exercising patience until your words can create understanding rather than confusion. Another overlooked aspect of honesty is that trust should be earned, not assumed. Sharing deeply personal experiences with someone who has not demonstrated reliability can lead to disappointment. Healthy boundaries are not walls that isolate us. They are filters that protect what is valuable until others prove they can handle it with care. Just as you would not hand a priceless treasure to a stranger, your deepest thoughts, dreams, and vulnerabilities deserve thoughtful protection. This is not suspicion. It is wisdom shaped by experience. Ultimately, honesty reaches its highest form when it is guided by discernment. You do not need to hide who you are, pretend to be someone else, or abandon your integrity. Instead, learn to pair truth with judgment, openness with awareness, and sincerity with emotional intelligence. The strongest individuals are not those who reveal everything to everyone. They are those who remain truthful in character while wisely choosing the right time, the right place, and the right people with whom to share their deepest truths. In doing so, honesty becomes not a weakness to be exploited, but a quiet strength that earns lasting respect and protects both your integrity and your peace. Emotional intelligence is often misunderstood as simply being kind, patient, or empathetic. In reality, it is the ability to recognize emotions, both your own and those of others, and respond with wisdom rather than impulse. One of the greatest lessons emotional intelligence teaches is that truth is not only about what you say, but also about when you say it, how you say it, and who is prepared to hear it. Many people believe that complete transparency is always a sign of integrity, yet human psychology suggests otherwise. A truth delivered without awareness of timing or context can create misunderstanding, resistance, or unnecessary conflict. The most emotionally intelligent individuals understand that wisdom gives direction to honesty. Consider the difference between speaking every thought that enters your mind and speaking with purpose. The first is emotional release. The second is emotional discipline. Human beings are deeply influenced by mood, ego, stress, and personal bias. A person who is angry today may interpret your honest feedback as an attack, while the same words offered when emotions have settled may be received as valuable guidance. The truth itself has not changed, only the emotional environment surrounding it has. This is why emotionally intelligent people learn to observe before they speak. They recognize that timing often determines whether honesty builds trust or destroys communication. Psychology also teaches that people rarely process information in a purely logical way. Instead, they filter every message through their own experiences, fears, expectations, and insecurities. When someone feels threatened, they often defend their self-image before considering the facts. This means that an honest statement can unintentionally trigger defensiveness, not because it is false, but because it challenges a person's identity or beliefs. Emotional intelligence allows you to recognize these invisible psychological barriers. Rather than forcing your truth into every conversation, you learn to communicate in ways that encourage understanding instead of resistance. There is also tremendous strength in knowing that not every piece of information must be shared immediately. Patience is not dishonesty. Silence is not weakness. Sometimes the most mature response is to wait until emotions cool, relationships strengthen, or circumstances become clearer. This restraint is an expression of self-control, one of the highest forms of personal power. People who react impulsively often regret their words because they spoke to satisfy a temporary emotion instead of serving a lasting purpose. Emotionally intelligent individuals understand that every conversation should move toward clarity, growth, and mutual respect rather than emotional release. Another important lesson is that discretion protects both relationships and personal well-being. Sharing every fear, every frustration, or every private detail with everyone around you does not necessarily create deeper connections. Trust is built gradually through consistency and mutual respect. Wise people understand that honesty and boundaries can exist together. They remain truthful without exposing every vulnerable part of themselves to those who have not earned that level of trust. This balance prevents unnecessary disappointment while preserving authenticity. Ultimately, emotional intelligence transforms honesty from a simple moral principle into a practical life skill. It reminds us that integrity is not measured by speaking constantly, but by speaking responsibly. Real wisdom lies in understanding that truth reaches its greatest power when it is guided by empathy, patience, discernment, and self-mastery. When your words are aligned with the right moment, the right intention, and the right audience, honesty no longer becomes a source of conflict. It becomes a force that inspires respect, strengthens relationships, and reflects genuine inner strength. One of the most overlooked realities of human nature is that people rarely respond to your vulnerability based solely on what you reveal. Instead, they respond through the lens of their own character, experiences, ambitions, insecurities, and intentions. This is why the exact same act of honesty can produce completely different outcomes depending on who is listening. A trustworthy person may see your openness as a sign of courage and authenticity, while an insecure or manipulative individual may interpret it as an opportunity to gain influence or advantage. Understanding this distinction is not about becoming suspicious of everyone. It is about recognizing that human perception is never neutral. Every person filters your words through their own psychological framework. Psychologists have long observed that people naturally project their internal world onto others. Someone who values integrity often assumes honesty deserves respect. Someone driven by competition may unconsciously search for weaknesses they can exploit. A person struggling with envy may quietly resent your achievements while pretending to celebrate them. Another who lacks emotional maturity may use your admissions during moments of disagreement, not because your honesty was wrong, but because they view relationships through the lens of power rather than mutual respect. This is why emotional intelligence begins not only with understanding yourself, but also with understanding the emotional patterns of those around you. Many people believe authenticity means sharing everything they feel. In reality, emotional maturity teaches something more nuanced. Authenticity is living in alignment with your values, not exposing every private thought to every audience. There is a profound difference between honesty and unrestricted transparency. The first builds trust. The second can sometimes create unnecessary vulnerability. Wisdom lies in knowing that every truth does not require an immediate audience. Some experiences need time to mature before they are shared, and some thoughts are meant only for trusted relationships where respect has already been established. History repeatedly demonstrates that influential individuals carefully managed information without abandoning integrity. They understood that privacy is not the enemy of honesty. Instead, privacy protects what is valuable until the right moment arrives. Just as a seed remains beneath the soil before becoming a strong tree, personal goals, struggles, and ambitions often benefit from quiet development before public exposure. Revealing everything too early may invite criticism, misunderstanding, or unnecessary interference from people who neither understand your vision nor genuinely care about your growth. Human nature is also deeply influenced by comparison. When people hear about your fears, failures, or dreams, their reactions are shaped by their own emotional state. Those who are secure often encourage you because your progress does not threaten their identity. Those who are deeply insecure may respond with subtle discouragement, sarcasm, or doubt because your potential reminds them of opportunities they never pursued. Their response says more about their internal world than it does about your worth. Recognizing this helps you stop taking every opinion personally and instead evaluate feedback according to its source. This understanding should never lead to cynicism. Believing that everyone has hidden motives creates unnecessary isolation and prevents meaningful relationships from developing. Instead, it encourages discernment. Trust should not be granted instantly or withheld forever. It should be built gradually through consistent actions, reliability, empathy, and mutual respect. People reveal their character over time, not through impressive words, but through repeated behavior. Emotional intelligence means allowing actions to confirm what words promise. Ultimately, one of the greatest forms of self-mastery is learning to protect your inner world without becoming emotionally closed. You can remain honest, compassionate, and authentic while still choosing carefully who earns access to your deepest thoughts. Strength is not measured by how much of yourself you reveal, but by how wisely you share your truth. When honesty is guided by discernment instead of impulse, it becomes a source of confidence rather than vulnerability. You remain genuine without becoming naive, open without becoming exposed, and kind without surrendering the boundaries that protect your peace. Many people misunderstand authenticity. They believe that being authentic means expressing every opinion, revealing every emotion, and exposing every weakness without hesitation. While this idea sounds admirable, psychology and experience suggest a more balanced reality. Authenticity is not about complete self-disclosure. It is about living in alignment with your values while exercising wisdom about what you choose to share. There is a profound difference between being genuine and being unguarded. One builds respect, while the other can sometimes invite misunderstanding or unnecessary vulnerability. Human beings are naturally curious, but not everyone who seeks to know you has your best interests at heart. Some people appreciate honesty because it strengthens trust and deepens relationships. Others may interpret openness through the lens of competition, insecurity, or personal gain. This is why emotional intelligence becomes an essential companion to authenticity. It helps you recognize that your inner world is valuable and deserves thoughtful protection. Sharing your thoughts with discernment is not pretending to be someone else. It is recognizing that trust should be built gradually rather than given freely. Research in psychology consistently shows that healthy relationships are founded on mutual trust, respect, and reciprocity. These qualities develop over time through consistent actions, not through immediate emotional exposure. Authentic people do not rush to reveal every detail about themselves. Instead, they allow others to earn access to deeper parts of their lives through reliability, integrity, and shared experience. This approach protects emotional well-being while creating stronger, more meaningful connections. Imagine a tree with deep roots. It does not announce the strength beneath the ground. Its stability is demonstrated through its ability to withstand storms, not through constant displays of what lies hidden. In the same way, authentic character is revealed through consistent behavior rather than endless explanation. Your principles become visible in how you treat others, how you respond to adversity, and how faithfully you act according to your beliefs. You do not need to narrate your integrity for it to exist. One of the greatest mistakes people make is believing they must justify every decision to prove they are sincere. In reality, those who are comfortable with themselves rarely feel compelled to seek constant validation. They understand that not everyone will understand their choices, and they accept this without resentment. Their confidence comes from internal alignment rather than external approval. This quiet confidence often commands greater respect than excessive openness ever could. History repeatedly reminds us that influential leaders, skilled negotiators, and wise thinkers understood the importance of measured communication. They were not dishonest. They simply recognized that every truth has an appropriate time, place, and audience. Speaking with intention allows your words to retain value. When every thought is spoken immediately, words lose their weight. When they are chosen carefully, they carry influence and purpose. Authenticity also means accepting your imperfections without feeling obligated to display them to everyone. Self-awareness encourages honesty with yourself first. It invites you to acknowledge your fears, ambitions, mistakes, and aspirations privately before deciding who is worthy of hearing them. This process strengthens emotional resilience because your sense of identity no longer depends on how others react. Instead, it is grounded in a clear understanding of who you are and what you stand for. Ultimately, true authenticity is not measured by how much you reveal, but by how faithfully you live according to your principles. It is the quiet discipline of remaining honest without becoming reckless, open without becoming vulnerable to exploitation, and kind without abandoning healthy boundaries. The strongest individuals understand that sincerity and wisdom are not opposing forces, they are partners. They speak the truth with courage, protect their peace with discernment, and allow their actions to become the clearest expression of their character. In the end, authenticity is less about telling the world everything about yourself and more about ensuring that the person you are in private is the same person your actions reveal in public. Many people misunderstand silence. They assume that if you choose not to reveal everything you know, everything you feel, or every opinion you have, you must be hiding something or being dishonest. But psychology paints a very different picture. Silence, when guided by wisdom and integrity, is not deception. It is emotional discipline. It is the ability to control your impulses instead of allowing your impulses to control you. One of the greatest signs of maturity is realizing that not every truth must be spoken immediately, and not every thought deserves a voice. The strongest minds understand that restraint often communicates more strength than constant expression. Human beings are naturally emotional creatures. When we feel hurt, criticized, excited, or misunderstood, our first instinct is often to react. We want to explain ourselves, defend our intentions, or expose every detail of our emotions. Yet these emotional reactions frequently produce consequences we later regret. Words spoken in anger cannot be retrieved. Secrets revealed in loneliness cannot be taken back. Opinions expressed without reflection can permanently alter relationships and reputations. Emotional discipline begins the moment you recognize this impulse and decide not to surrender to it. Instead of speaking because emotion demands it, you speak because wisdom permits it. This is why strategic silence is such a powerful psychological skill. It creates space between emotion and action. In that space, reason begins to replace impulse. You gain the opportunity to ask yourself important questions. Is this the right person to tell? Is this the right moment? Will these words improve the situation, or am I speaking simply to relieve my own emotions? These few moments of reflection often prevent years of unnecessary conflict. History consistently rewards individuals who mastered their emotions before attempting to influence others. Great leaders were rarely remembered for speaking the most words. They were remembered for speaking the right words at the right time. They understood that constant explanation weakens authority because it signals emotional dependence on other people's approval. Calm restraint, on the other hand, communicates confidence. When you are comfortable allowing silence to exist, you demonstrate that your self-worth does not depend on immediate validation. Modern psychology supports this principle. Emotional intelligence is not measured by how openly someone expresses every feeling. It is measured by how effectively they recognize, regulate, and channel those emotions. Self-control consistently predicts healthier relationships, stronger leadership, and better long-term decision-making. Individuals who pause before reacting are generally perceived as more trustworthy, thoughtful, and emotionally stable because they demonstrate that their behavior is guided by intention rather than impulse. Silence also protects your mental energy. Every unnecessary argument, every defensive explanation, and every emotional debate consumes attention that could have been invested in growth. Not every misunderstanding deserves correction. Not every criticism deserves an answer. Sometimes people are committed to misunderstanding you because it confirms their own beliefs or insecurities. In such situations, explaining yourself repeatedly only creates frustration. Choosing silence is not surrender. It is recognizing that your peace has greater value than winning every conversation. There is also a profound difference between secrecy and privacy. Secrecy often involves concealing wrongdoing, while privacy is the healthy protection of your personal thoughts, emotions, goals, and vulnerabilities. Every successful person understands this distinction. They do not announce every ambition before it is achieved. They do not expose every fear to every listener. They understand that trust is earned over time, not given automatically. By keeping certain parts of yourself private, you preserve emotional security without compromising your honesty. This principle becomes especially important in relationships. Honest communication is essential, but wisdom determines how much, when, and with whom information should be shared. Deep trust develops gradually through consistency, respect, and mutual care. Oversharing too quickly can unintentionally place your emotional well-being in the hands of people who have not yet demonstrated that they will protect it. Emotional discipline encourages openness where trust exists and healthy boundaries where it does not. Ultimately, silence is not the absence of truth, it is the mastery of truth. It reflects the understanding that character is not defined by saying everything that enters your mind, but by knowing which truths build, which truths heal, and which truths are better reserved until the right moment. The strongest individuals remain honest without becoming impulsive, authentic without becoming exposed, and open without becoming vulnerable to unnecessary harm. Their silence is never rooted in fear. It is rooted in wisdom, patience, and the quiet confidence that not every battle requires words to be won. One of the greatest misunderstandings about honesty is the belief that everyone deserves unrestricted access to your thoughts, emotions, experiences, and personal struggles. In reality, honesty and access are not the same thing. You can be a truthful person without making every part of your inner world available to everyone you meet. Healthy boundaries do not weaken honesty, they protect it. They allow your sincerity to remain genuine rather than becoming something that others can misuse. Trust is not given automatically. It is earned gradually through consistent actions, respect, and integrity. The more you understand this principle, the more you realize that wisdom lies not in revealing everything, but in knowing who has demonstrated the character to receive your truth responsibly. Human psychology teaches that information is power. Every personal story, fear, dream, failure, or insecurity you reveal becomes knowledge that another person can choose to honor or misuse. Most people will never intentionally exploit your openness, but some may consciously or unconsciously use it to influence your decisions, question your confidence, or shape how others perceive you. This is why emotional intelligence encourages selective openness rather than limitless transparency. It is not about becoming suspicious of everyone. It is about recognizing that trust should grow at the same pace as evidence. Just as a wise investor does not place all of their resources into an unknown opportunity, a wise individual does not place all of their emotional vulnerability into relationships that have not yet proven stable. Robert Greene's observations about human nature repeatedly point toward this reality. People are complex. Even good people can act unpredictably under pressure, jealousy, competition, or fear. Someone who sincerely supports you today may unknowingly reveal your private struggles tomorrow during a moment of frustration. Another person may admire your success while secretly comparing themselves to you. These are not reasons to become cynical. They are reminders that character reveals itself over time. Boundaries acknowledge this complexity without abandoning kindness. They allow you to remain compassionate while also respecting your own emotional security. Many people confuse boundaries with emotional distance, but they are fundamentally different. Emotional distance pushes everyone away. Boundaries simply organize access. Imagine entering a beautiful home. Not every visitor is invited into every room immediately. Guests may sit in the living room. Close friends may enter the kitchen. Family may know the entire house. This does not make the homeowner dishonest. It demonstrates wisdom. Likewise, your inner life deserves thoughtful protection. Your fears, ambitions, disappointments, and deepest hopes belong in the care of people who have consistently demonstrated loyalty, discretion, and respect. One of the clearest signs of maturity is recognizing that honesty should strengthen relationships, not burden them. Oversharing often comes from a desire to feel understood quickly, but meaningful trust cannot be rushed. Relationships built too rapidly on intense vulnerability sometimes collapse just as quickly because the emotional foundation was never fully established. Genuine trust develops through shared experiences, reliability, mutual respect, and time. As these foundations grow stronger, honesty naturally becomes deeper and more meaningful. There is no need to force intimacy before it is ready. Boundaries also protect your confidence during periods of growth. Every meaningful goal begins as something fragile. A new business idea, a personal transformation, a creative project, or a major life decision often requires quiet nurturing before public discussion. Speaking too early to people who doubt, criticize, or misunderstand your vision can introduce unnecessary uncertainty into your thinking. This is not because your dream is weak, but because every growing seed needs protection before it becomes a strong tree. Wise individuals understand that some truths are meant to be developed privately before they are shared publicly. Perhaps the most important lesson is that boundaries are an expression of self-respect rather than fear. They communicate that your honesty has value. Your experiences, emotions, and personal journey are not commodities to be distributed without consideration. They are meaningful parts of your identity that deserve thoughtful stewardship. When people consistently demonstrate loyalty, empathy, and integrity, your honesty becomes a gift that strengthens connection. Until then, patience is not deception. It is wisdom. By allowing trust to be earned instead of assumed, you preserve both your authenticity and your peace, proving that the strongest form of honesty is not speaking everything to everyone, but sharing your truth with discernment, dignity, and emotional intelligence. Self-mastery is often misunderstood as the ability to control other people or dominate difficult situations. In reality, it begins with learning to govern your own emotions, impulses, and decisions. One of its most overlooked aspects is knowing how to balance openness with awareness, kindness with caution, and sincerity with wisdom. Many people assume that if their intentions are good, the outcome will naturally be good as well. Human psychology, however, is far more complex. People interpret words through the lens of their own experiences, ambitions, fears, and insecurities. The same honest statement can inspire one person, offend another, and provide useful information to someone with selfish intentions. This is why emotional maturity is not measured by how truthful you are alone, but by how wisely you communicate that truth. Awareness transforms honesty from a simple habit into a deliberate choice. It encourages you to observe before you speak, to understand before you reveal, and to evaluate the character of those around you. This does not mean becoming suspicious of everyone or living behind emotional walls. Instead, it means recognizing that trust is built through consistent actions, not assumed through first impressions. A person who has mastered themselves understands that openness should grow alongside proven reliability. Just as a gardener does not scatter precious seeds on barren ground, a wise individual does not share every personal struggle, dream, or vulnerability with people who have not demonstrated respect and integrity. Kindness, too, requires balance. Many people believe being kind means always saying yes, always explaining themselves, and always making others comfortable. Yet kindness without healthy boundaries often becomes self-neglect. When your desire to help others consistently comes at the expense of your own peace, your kindness is no longer sustainable. True compassion includes respect for yourself. It recognizes that protecting your energy, your time, and your emotional well-being is not selfish. It is responsible. The people who genuinely value you will respect your boundaries, while those who seek to benefit from your generosity may resist them. This difference reveals more about their character than yours. Sincerity is another quality that deserves wisdom. Speaking from the heart is admirable, but speaking without reflection can create unnecessary conflict or expose vulnerabilities that others may misuse. Wisdom asks important questions before honesty becomes action. Is this the right time? Is this the right place? Is this the right person? Will these words build understanding, or are they simply satisfying an emotional impulse? These questions do not weaken honesty. They strengthen it by ensuring that truth serves a constructive purpose rather than becoming a reaction driven by frustration or emotion. Emotional intelligence teaches that silence can sometimes communicate greater confidence than immediate explanation. Not every misunderstanding requires a defense. Not every criticism deserves a response. Not every opinion demands your agreement or disagreement. A person who has achieved self-mastery understands that preserving inner stability is often more valuable than winning external approval. They are comfortable allowing their actions, consistency, and character to speak louder than endless justification. History repeatedly shows that influential individuals were not simply honest. They were discerning. They understood that information carries power, and power should be handled responsibly. They shared ideas strategically, built relationships carefully, and revealed personal matters only to those who had earned their confidence. This approach was not rooted in fear but in wisdom. They understood that transparency without discernment can invite misunderstanding, while thoughtful communication builds trust over time. Ultimately, self-mastery is the art of remaining authentic without becoming predictable, remaining compassionate without becoming exploitable, and remaining truthful without surrendering your judgment. It is the quiet confidence to know that your value does not depend on explaining yourself to everyone or exposing every part of your inner world. The strongest individuals are not those who reveal everything they think or feel. They are those who understand that honesty reaches its highest form when it is guided by patience, emotional intelligence, and wisdom. In a world where intentions vary and perceptions constantly shift, the person who masters this balance protects both their integrity and their peace, proving that true strength lies not only in telling the truth, but in knowing how to live it wisely. Strength is often misunderstood as complete openness, the belief that powerful people reveal every thought, every plan, every emotion, and every weakness without hesitation. But human nature tells a different story. The strongest individuals are not those who expose themselves completely. They are those who remain truthful while understanding that wisdom requires discernment. They do not create false identities or manipulate others with lies. Instead, they recognize that honesty and predictability are not the same thing. A person can live with integrity while still choosing carefully what deserves to be shared and what deserves to remain private. Many people confuse authenticity with constant self-disclosure. They believe that being genuine means speaking every opinion, announcing every ambition, or revealing every emotional struggle to anyone who asks. In reality, this approach often places unnecessary power into the hands of others. Not everyone who listens is looking to understand you. Some are evaluating your weaknesses. Some are measuring your confidence. Others are quietly collecting information they may later use for their own advantage. This does not mean the world is filled with enemies, but it does mean that wisdom begins with accepting that people have different motives, and those motives are not always visible. Psychology teaches us that people naturally seek patterns. Once they believe they can predict your reactions, your decisions, or your emotional triggers, they become more confident in influencing your behavior. Predictability reduces your flexibility. It allows others to anticipate your next move before you have even made it. The person who reacts the same way every time becomes easy to manipulate, while the person who remains calm, thoughtful, and emotionally disciplined retains freedom of choice. This is not about becoming mysterious for the sake of appearances. It is about refusing to let your emotions control your actions in ways that others can exploit. True confidence does not demand constant explanation. It does not require endless validation or approval. A deeply secure person understands that silence can communicate maturity just as effectively as words. They know that every thought does not need an audience and every plan does not need an announcement. They allow their actions to speak with consistency, while their character quietly builds trust over time. This balance creates respect because people recognize stability without feeling entitled to every detail of your inner world. History repeatedly demonstrates that successful leaders, innovators, and strategists rarely revealed every intention before the right moment. They were honest in their principles but disciplined in their communication. They understood that timing influences outcomes. An idea shared too early may attract unnecessary criticism. A dream revealed to the wrong audience may be met with ridicule instead of encouragement. A goal announced before consistent action may lose its momentum through the satisfaction of talking rather than achieving. By protecting certain ambitions until they become reality, they preserved both focus and confidence. Emotional intelligence also reminds us that trust should be earned, not assumed. Healthy relationships grow through mutual respect, reliability, and shared experiences. As trust deepens, honesty naturally becomes more complete because it rests on a foundation of safety rather than impulse. This approach strengthens relationships instead of weakening them. It protects sincerity from becoming vulnerability in the wrong environment and allows openness to flourish where it is genuinely appreciated. Being difficult to predict does not mean becoming cold, secretive, or dishonest. It means maintaining the freedom to think before reacting, to observe before speaking, and to choose your responses instead of surrendering them to emotion. It means remaining kind without becoming naive, generous without becoming exploitable, and truthful without abandoning healthy boundaries. Your values stay visible, but your deepest strategies, insecurities, and ambitions are shared only with people who have demonstrated integrity. Ultimately, the strongest people understand that character is measured by consistency, not exposure. They live honestly because honesty reflects who they are, not because they feel compelled to reveal everything about themselves. Their integrity remains unwavering, while their discretion protects their peace. They recognize that self-mastery is the ability to balance openness with wisdom, courage with patience, and authenticity with discernment. In a world where many people speak impulsively and react emotionally, the individual who remains truthful yet thoughtful possesses a quiet strength that cannot easily be manipulated. That strength is not built on secrecy or deception, but on the profound understanding that wisdom always knows the difference between what should be spoken, what should be protected, and what should simply be demonstrated through action.